There is a delicate, almost invisible weight that rests in the spaces between words, in the silence that stretches longer than conversation. For years, they have learned to carry themselves quietly, stitching their vulnerabilities into hidden seams, practicing the art of self-containment as if it were armor. Needs, so profoundly human, are whispered only to the shadows. The heart remembers them, sometimes with a persistent ache, but the lips have long forgotten their language. To reveal a need is to expose a part of oneself that feels too fragile, too raw, too easily dismissed. And yet, beneath the careful composure, there is a constant, subtle longing. Every glance at another, every fleeting moment of perceived trust, sparks a quiet question. Can they ever safely ask for what they quietly crave? The tension between fear and desire becomes a quiet rhythm of daily life. Relief and terror coexist in equal measure. There is a strange intimacy in this paradox, an ache that is at once isolating and profoundly human. To hold needs in silence is to protect oneself, but it is also to limit the fullness of living. The world becomes a landscape of invisible doors, waiting to be opened. Somewhere deep inside, the yearning remains, to be seen, to be understood, to simply say, "This is what I need," without shame or fear. And it is in this delicate, trembling space between concealment and revelation that the journey truly begins, a journey into courage, connection, and the gentle reclaiming of the self. There is a peculiar intimacy in self-containment. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like the slow folding of paper into neat, hidden shapes. They learn early to present themselves whole, unshakable, composed, an image carefully crafted for the eyes of the world. The mask is not heavy at first. It is light, practical, protective. It shields them from disappointment, judgment, or misunderstanding. Over time, it becomes second nature, a subtle rhythm embedded in posture, tone, and glance. Beneath this mask, needs still stir, fragile, fleeting, yet persistent. The longing to speak, to ask, to lean into another human being, is there, muffled beneath layers of self-protection. Each gesture of vulnerability is measured, rehearsed, weighed against potential rejection. They have grown fluent in silence, finding comfort in its predictability. The world outside seems safer when the heart remains contained. And yet, the quiet mask is never complete. In rare moments, an unguarded smile, a sudden touch of empathy, there is a flicker of what has been hidden, a tremor of recognition. The soul remembers its own longings even when the self does not. It whispers in brief, almost imperceptible ways, hinting at the courage that lies dormant. This chapter invites the viewer to step into that interior world, to witness the simultaneous strength and fragility of those who have long hidden their needs. To understand that the mask is both a sanctuary and a barrier, and that beneath its calm surface lies the human heart, waiting for the quiet permission to be seen. The habit of hiding needs rarely emerges from nowhere. It grows slowly, seeded in early experiences, watered by subtle lessons that shape the heart's expectations. Perhaps it began in childhood, when curiosity or desire met with disapproval, when asking was met with impatience, or when attention arrived only for perfection. In such moments, the tender voice of need learned caution, learning that silence was safer than expression. Society, too, whispers its lessons. Stoicism is praised, independence revered, and vulnerability often mistaken for weakness. They watch, absorbing unspoken rules, learning to measure each request against a backdrop of judgment. Over time, these external cues merge with inner whispers of doubt. Better not ask, better not want, better not need. And so, the seeds of self-containment root themselves deeper, entwining with identity until asking feels not just risky, but almost unnatural. Yet the heart does not forget. The longing to be seen, understood, or comforted remains, quietly persistent. It surfaces in fleeting moments, a sigh, a pause, a longing glance towards someone trusted. Even when the self has learned restraint, the core remembers. This chapter examines the origins of concealment, tracing the subtle forces, family dynamics, societal expectations, early disappointments, that teach the soul to shrink and protect itself. Understanding these roots is not an indictment. It is a gentle acknowledgement that what feels like fear is often a carefully cultivated survival strategy. It is here, in recognition of these beginnings, that the path toward awareness and eventual liberation quietly begins. The mind carries its own quiet architecture of protection. Fear and restraint are not merely habits. They are patterns woven into thought, memory, and the nervous system. When the heart hesitates to ask, it is often the mind that whispers warnings. What if they say no? What if they judge? These are not random thoughts. They are echoes of past experiences, amplified by the body's instinct to survive. Neuroscience reveals a subtle dance between emotion and cognition. The amygdala, vigilant and ever watchful, registers threat even in the softest social cues. The prefrontal cortex calculates risk, weighing potential rejection against desire for connection. When needs are expressed too freely, the body remembers, anticipating discomfort, tension, or disappointment. Over time, avoidance becomes a reflex, and self-containment a familiar comfort. Psychology names these patterns in precise terms: learned helplessness, fear of vulnerability, attachment anxieties. But within each clinical description lies a human truth. These are not defects, but adaptations. They emerge because asking for help or expressing need carries weight, because the self has known disappointment and is cautious of repeating it. Yet even in this intricate machinery of thought and emotion, traces of longing persist. The mind may advise restraint, but the heart's quiet insistence continues to pulse beneath layers of caution. Understanding the interplay of mind and body, of thought and emotion, is to glimpse the delicate tension between protection and connection. It is here, in the awareness of these internal mechanisms, that the possibility of gentle change quietly emerges within the quiet heart of self-containment. A tension simmers, an invisible struggle between desire and fear. One part longs for connection, for the simple act of saying, "I need you," while another recoils, guarding against potential rejection or misunderstanding. This inner tug-of-war is not dramatic. It is subtle, persistent, a rhythm that quietly shapes daily life. Thoughts twist in circles. They imagine the warmth of being understood, the relief of having needs met, but then caution intervenes. What if the world does not respond with kindness? What if expressing need invites disappointment? Each imagined scenario carries weight, and the self hesitates, weighing vulnerability against safety. Anxiety, doubt, and self-criticism become constant companions. Better to remain silent, better to contain. Even so, desire does not disappear. It surfaces in fleeting moments, a longing glance, an unspoken question, the ache of loneliness softened by imagined intimacy. The heart remembers what the mind tries to control. The push and pull between wanting and fearing becomes a quiet education in patience, resilience, and restraint. This chapter explores that inner struggle, illuminating the complexity of human emotion when longing clashes with self-protection. It is a space of both tension and potential, where courage and fear coexist, and where the first inklings of awareness begin to emerge. By witnessing this tug-of-war, one begins to understand that self-containment is not merely fear. It is a careful negotiation, a dialogue between the parts of the self that seek connection and the parts that seek safety. There comes a moment, subtle yet profound, when the self begins to notice the cost of concealment. Years of careful restraint, of silent longing and hidden needs, have protected the heart, but they have also isolated it. In the quiet of reflection, or in the gentle gaze of another who sees without judgment, the realization arrives. Self-containment has been both shelter and cage. This awareness often emerges unexpectedly. A fleeting connection, a word spoken with empathy, or even a sudden experience of loneliness can illuminate the gap between what is felt and what is expressed. They see, for the first time with clarity, how much energy has been devoted to maintaining a facade, how much warmth has been withheld in fear of being misunderstood. The weight of unspoken needs becomes tangible, pressing softly yet insistently on the chest. The realization carries no blame, only understanding. It is an awakening to the human truth that vulnerability, though frightening, is also the avenue to connection, intimacy, and self-recognition. It is the first acknowledgement that asking for support, for love, for simple human attention is not weakness. It is an essential act of being. This chapter captures that turning point, the quiet moment when the self begins to recognize the patterns it has followed for years. It is here, in the delicate space between fear and insight, that the door to change opens. A gentle curiosity stirs. Perhaps it is possible to reclaim what was long hidden, to invite connection without the shadow of shame. Integration begins not with grand gestures, but with quiet, deliberate acknowledgement. The self, long practiced in containment, learns slowly that needs can be named without fear, that vulnerability can coexist with strength. It is a delicate process, like tending a fragile plant. Careful attention, patient observation, small gestures of care. They begin to notice the subtle ways in which they have denied themselves, moments where a sigh, a pause, or a simple request might have shifted an interaction, if only it had been allowed. Each recognition is gentle, without judgment, a soft illumination of patterns that once felt unchangeable. Awareness itself becomes a form of release. In this chapter, the focus is on the small, reflective steps toward allowing needs to surface. Perhaps a thought is voiced to a trusted person, or a longing is acknowledged privately in the quiet of a room. Each act, though seemingly modest, becomes an exercise in courage and compassion. The mind may still resist, the heart may tremble, yet each instance strengthens the capacity for self-expression and connection. Integration is not instantaneous. It is a rhythm of patience and repetition. The self learns to hold needs without shame, to honor longing without fear. Over time, the mask softens, and the quiet armor becomes more flexible, allowing glimpses of authentic desire to meet the world. In these gentle steps, the journey of self-containment transforms. Fear is met with understanding, and silence slowly makes space for voice. At last, there is a quiet easing, a soft release of the tension that has lingered for years. The self, long practiced in concealment, begins to feel the subtle freedom of being seen, not perfectly, not without hesitation, but simply as it is. Needs, once whispered only to shadows, find gentle expression. The heart discovers that vulnerability, far from breaking it, has a tender resilience. This final chapter is a meditation on the poetry of connection. In allowing the self to ask, to lean, to reach, there is an intimacy that was previously unimaginable. Each small act of courage, a request softly spoken, a longing acknowledged, a boundary gently drawn, becomes an affirmation of presence, a reclamation of authenticity. Fear may still linger at the edges, but it no longer dominates. It is observed, respected, and allowed to coexist with curiosity, hope, and quiet trust. The soft release is also a recognition that human beings are inherently relational, and that to express need is not a flaw, but an essential aspect of existence. In embracing this truth, the self reconciles with its history of restraint and begins to inhabit the present with a fuller awareness. As the narrative closes, the viewer is left with the gentle reminder that concealment, while protective, is only one way to navigate life. True depth comes in allowing oneself to be seen, to be held, and to hold others in return. In this quiet surrender, there is grace, a subtle, luminous space where the heart can finally rest, and where the courage to ask becomes a daily, tender practice.